Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. When people see a beached whale or a seal in distress, they want to help, but they don't always know what to do. They're not trained to help marine mammals. Well, my next guest today, Lynda Doughty, started Marine Mammals of Maine, and she helps all kinds of marine life. In fact, she created a hotline so that anyone who sees a mammal in trouble can call the hotline to get medical help. Lynda Doughty's here with me now. Lynda, welcome to American Voices.
Thank you for having me.
So growing up, when did you realize you wanted to be a marine biologist?
I was probably 14. I had been out on the water with my father and family and with sea seals. They also had taken me to SeaWorld as well as when I was younger, and it stuck. I knew what I wanted to do at a young age, but I didn't know how to get to where I wanted to go.
What do you think drew you to marine life and to the ocean?
I did come across the little seal pup one time that had showed up on my grandparents' beach area, and I did all the wrong things of what someone should do.
Like what?
And I sat right next to it, wanted to pet it. In hindsight, that's actually pretty stressful for an animal that doesn't know what I am as a human, and so I didn't realize how much stress I was causing that animal, even though I wanted to help it. And that kind of instilled in me that I wanted, there's probably other people that feel the same way and do the same things. That to me kind of spearheaded this passion to how to help these animals and what do I need to learn more to do better at what I do.
So tell me what you should have done.
What I should have done is kept my distance from that animal and called people who were trained in working specifically with these type of species of animals.
As a child, who in your life was supportive of your dream to be a marine biologist?
I would definitely say my parents. I remember my mother calling a local lady that we knew had worked with whales, and I was struggling to try to figure out how to get involved. And I was 18, and she reached out to this lady and called her right up, and we were sitting at the kitchen table. I remember the day and the morning that she did this, and I thought, oh my goodness, my mom's going to do this. And she called her and asked, how does my daughter get involved with working with these animals, and what does she need to do? And the lady, her name's Nan Hauser. She still continues to work with whales today. And she said she needs to start getting involved and volunteer her time and get experience with doing this. It's not something you just walk into. And I thought, oh, geez, I want to get paid for what I do. And so that really opened my mind up to the act of volunteering and doing that. And that's exactly what I did.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about Marine Mammals of Maine. How do you help marine life?
Yeah, we respond to about 2,500 miles of coastline in the southern part of the state of Maine. And we have a 1-800 number that people can call to report animals that they find, because it's mainly the public that is reporting animals in. And so we probably field about 4,000 to 6,000 calls a year, and we respond to about 300 individual animals. So that's seals, dolphins, whales, porpoises, and sea turtles. And 80% of the animals we respond to are mostly seals, and the other 10% are the whales, dolphins, or porpoises, and sea turtles. So a majority of that time is mostly seals of different species. We also do a lot of outreach and education, so practice what we preach. We are out in the public talking to people about the work that we do and what to do when they find an animal, like the things that I wish I had known when I was younger. And then we have the rehabilitation side. So if an animal is in need of care, they come back to our center for us to provide that care so that we can eventually release them back into the wild. And then we also have the research arm of our organization so that we can get better at what we do and learn from ourselves how to be better for these animals in the future.
Well, tell us about some of the animals that you've helped, seals and other animals.
Yeah, so this is where it never gets old. Even though I've been doing this 20 plus years now. Yeah, I think it's 22 years now. Helping the seals, especially the seals that come into our center, they have their different personalities, and the ones that are really have all the odds stacked against them is the ones that really stick out the most. I had this little harbor seal pup that is probably the smallest harbor seal pup we've ever had come through our center. And she had definitely a unique personality. And she actually ended up making me have to think outside the box a lot in her care.
Mm-hmm. Well, how big would this pup be?
She is about 10 pounds.
Uh-huh.
And that's on the smaller side. Usually when they're born, they're about 25 pounds. So she was really not only underweight, but also just like really small as well. She would not do anything that she didn't want to do. And she would really just, every time we would try to advance her in her weaning process because they nurse for a period of time. And because she was an abandoned pup, she was separated from her mom before that nursing was over. So we have to kind of mimic what mom would have taught her or be doing for her in the wild. And so we do tube feedings of formula. She wasn't gaining weight on that, so we had to set up a separate feeding schedule for her compared to the other animals. And then when we went into the weaning process, when she starts to wean onto fish so that she becomes more independent, and that's an exciting time because that means they're getting closer to being released. And she didn't want to eat certain size fish, or she didn't want you looking at her when we went to try to feed the fish, or she was all over the place. And if someone was wearing a pink scarf when they came in, she's like, nope, not eating today. That's it. So she had a lot of quirks, so we had to kind of work around her very independent personality that she had. And so she was with us a little bit longer because she did have a virus, and that virus took out some of her pool mates, but she still survived, so she's just this little fighter. And we were eventually able to release her on Christmas Eve, which was really special just because of it being Christmas Eve, and a lot of people got to come and attend her public release and see her off.
Well, what does that mean? So what's it like when you send them back to the ocean? And what was it like for you with this particular pup, and what happened?
Well, I got a little emotional when we pulled in to the beach area because she's spent a lot of time with trying to figure out how I was going to get her to even be releasable because she just was all over the place. So there was a lot of time spent into her care, and that changes once they're released. You hope you've prepared them to be successful in the wild, which is what they're meant to do. That's their natural habitat. But it's going to be a different change because you go back to the center and she's no longer there. And what you've been doing every day and coming in and caring for her, she's no longer there. But you try not to have that attachment, but when you're involved with it, it's hard to separate.
Yeah, I would imagine that's so. So you created this hotline. What do you think it means to people who do call in, that they're able to help and get medical support for these mammals?
Some people know that they put this into their phone because they frequent the beach a lot, but there's still many people that don't even know that we exist. And so that is important, that they're just happy to have a number on the other end that they can call if they didn't know. They're like, oh, we didn't even know that there was somebody that would even do this type of work. So we're happy to know that you exist so that we can see that this animal can get cared for. But what's tough in these times is that there's not enough rehabilitation capacity in the Northeast region to care for all the animals that needed, and that can be challenging sometimes because we can't always take in the animals that need it. And that's why we're trying to keep pushing forward so that we can increase capacity to help these animals each year, so that someday there's a day that we don't have to say no to bring in an animal.
How many calls do you get?
So we get about 4,000 to 6,000 calls a year.
Wow.
With a very small staff.
How do you possibly decide which are going to be the 300?
Yeah, we primarily prioritize animals that are in highly populated, busy areas because they're the ones that get stressed out and have a lot more human interactions than an animal that's on a quiet island that's not being bothered as much.
Right.
And it's less stressful.
So in working with marine life, is there anything that you've learned from them about life generally?
These animals are a lot more resilient than we give them credit for. They deal with things that if humans were dealing with that, we would be crying and complaining. But these animals deal with a lot by growing up in the wild and nature that is not really forgiving. And so it just amazes me what some of these animals have dealt with prior to them even coming into our care and us helping them. Sometimes if you're stressed out, if someone's stressed out and they're dealing with an animal, that animal is going to feel that energy and respond to that energy. So you have to be really careful when working with them because you're putting your energy out into them and you can see them start to get agitated even when they're not feeling well, that they're responding to what you're sending. Yeah.
Isn't it fascinating?
It is.
They pick up something, right? I mean, it's like
they do.
Animals that hear the earthquake long before the earthquake shows up, right?
Yeah.
There's that other dimension, that other sense.
Yes. When we have animals that notice like a storm or a weather pattern that's coming through, they'll know that before we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so people will be like, well, why is it a busier hotline day on the beach? And I'm like, I wonder if a weather period is going to be coming through because they'll know before we do.
It's kind of humbling, isn't it?
It is. And I don't think everybody realizes that happens because we get stuck in our own worlds and not realize these animals are trying to tell us something.
What do you think these animals are trying to tell us?
Be kind, take care of our environment so they can be here for the long haul.
Well, listen, Lynda, thanks for being here and thanks for taking care of marine life in America.
Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking with Lynda Doughty of Marine Mammals of Maine. To find out more, visit us on Facebook, our show page, American Voices with Senator Bill Bradley.
When we open our eyes and dream, we open our eyes.
Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.